Welcome to the first episode of A ComfortZone Retrospective on Kismet Radio in partnership with These Days. We're your hosts, Tara and Pedro, and we're broadcasting from south-facing windows today. This July, Saba celebrated the 10th anniversary of his cult classic Comfort Zone, an ambitious 14-track project that defined his musical journey. To celebrate the occasion, These Days and Kismet published an oral history of the mixtape, which saw Pedro speak to 17 contributors and friends who were around during the creation of Comfort Zone. We thought it would be cool for These Days and Kismet to also collaborate on an audio piece, so we're here with A ComfortZone Retrospective, a limited series where we unpack all 14 tracks on the tape, welcome some special guests, and generally nerd out on music. For the first episode, Pedro and I will chat about the oral history and our respective attachments to Comfort Zone. Then we'll give the tape the no skips treatment, shout out Brandon Jenkins and Shay Serrano, and talk about its cultural significance and legacy in Chicago. It's been cool to work with Pedro because we both have our own attachments to Comfort Zone. Yeah. So I want to ask you about yours since you wrote the oral history. It was interesting for me to learn that you felt like Saba's story reflected your own. Like, you both are the same age, and you told me you're a bit of an introvert. I'm not putting words in your mouth. No. So what was it like seeing yourself in Saba's music?
Yeah, and first I want to thank you for one, collaborating on the article, and two, doing this. It's really cool to just nerd out about music, especially something that's so close to our hearts as like Saba's catalog. And yeah, like, to make, I guess, like a convoluted story streamline, I'm originally from Mexico, and I moved to Chicago around the same time when he started releasing music more frequently, and I started just wanted to be involved in that scene. So I was contributing to this music blog named called Ruby Hornet, and I started writing a lot about Saba and Pivot Gang, and I was just feeling very gravitational towards like the content and also this person and the way that he would talk about, you know, still being like in rap you have to have this bravado, but he wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. And I was myself a very shy kid back then, so it was really cool to see kind of like almost like a blueprint of like, hey, can you get out of your comfort zone and, you know, be able to connect with people and be able to achieve your dreams. So when Comfort Zone dropped, it was like a very meaningful project for me.
Yeah.
Can I ask you why it resonated with you so much?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't really see myself in him because I don't really think we have that much in common. When I first found out about him, I wasn't even living in Chicago. I was living in New York, and
you were interning at Complex, right?
No. Or maybe this was like maybe after. I just read about him on Noisy. I think I was already freelancing by then and was writing for Noisy, and so I was just looking at their site or whatever. But I saw a profile on him, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh shit, this is what they got going on. Because, you know, like Chance, Vic, Chief Keef, like I had heard all of them and I listened to all of them, but I don't know, something was different about Saba. And I mean, as a writer, I appreciated his pen, and I think I was just impressed because, like you said, like I think the things you just said about he was vulnerable, but you know, he had bravado. Like he just towed the line really well. You know, he was young. Yeah, and it was just like I was just so impressed. I think that somebody so young could be so talented, because I really do feel like he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways. You know, definitely like Old Soul, or just he's been here before or something. You know.
Yeah, he graduated high school 2 years before like our class was supposed to, and even talking to him, he just sounds so smart and like so wise, which is, it's wild.
Yeah, it definitely is crazy.
And when did you move to Chicago then?
December 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Very cool.
People like to tell me I should claim Chicago now. I do, but I'm still from St. Louis. Looking at you, John. Hey.
I've been here also like 11, 12 years, so you know, I think that's when you do the threshold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know this is what they say about New York, but I'm still from St. Louis. Very much from St. Louis. So I think it was I was definitely impressed that you got the oral history done on such a tight timeline. What was it about, what made you want to undertake such a project, and why an oral history?
Yeah, I think another thing that why the project was important to me, it dropped at a very transformative stage in my life, like 2014. I'm going to be a sophomore in college. I'm really gaining my independence living in Chicago, and that album was like my soundtrack of the summer and the rest of the year. and I really felt like tethered to it ever since then. Thinking about it constantly. When the 5-year anniversary happened, I did a little bit of a retrospective back then, and then the 10-year, I just felt like it's a project that, and we'll dive deeper into this, but it was a little bit of like a underrated, overlooked project that had a lot of really amazing value to it that, you know, I think it was worth talking about. And the whole mission of these days has always been to cover Chicago in a very responsible and caring way. And I think this album, you know, needed that. And so that's what we did.
Responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when we were talking about interviewing people, we just kept looking at the list and we were like, oh,
Bro, that shit was long. I was like, we gotta.
But it was
It'll be incredible to interview 50 people.
It was also really cool, like, to be able to interview like people that made a huge impact on the city, and maybe we hadn't heard from them in a while.
Yeah,
like, I'm thinking about
sure.
Cam Obi. Like, that was so cool.
Oh yeah.
And
No, I'm
he's such
definitely
an awesome
jealous.
person.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also were interested before, like, I know because Carlos connected us, right?
Yeah.
What were you kind of thinking about when you were trying to take this?
I was just throwing paint in a wall, I feel like. Cause like I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have any like, not motivation. I just didn't have like, I think I needed to do it with somebody, and I couldn't like get myself to move forward. I mean, there's too much going on. So it's like, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself, I don't think. So I think it's just a funny way it worked out. I mentioned it to Saba in passing. He told Christella, and Christella was like, oh, they're already doing this. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate your collaboration. Again, I think similarly, like, if I hadn't had somebody that would make me accountable.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah,
and push my writing as well. The process was like, we had enough runtime where we were able to interview these people.
I mean, you just like, you did all that legwork. Like I don't think I would have been able to do that, you know?
Yeah, what we basically did was like, we reached out via email or text or however we could get a hold of people. We set up like an hour Google Meets interviews and then transcribe that and then try to see what the structure of the story was. So it was a lot of back and forth and drafts and conversations, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I've never gotten to be involved in oral history before, and I like being an editor. I didn't have to write. That's great. So.
Was there anything, not to take your shine, but was there anything that you found interesting reading through the oral history or as
I think it was really more on the backstory in Marbles, which we'll talk about later. But no, I think it was just like cool to have. I mean, I think it's like such a community project, you know, like, I mean, it's friends, it's, you know, it was like his community kind of coming together in like one of those more earlier moments, and so it's cool to like see everybody in conversation again, but like, you know, in a written, you know, like in a different form or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's also just like realizing how much he leaned on his community to accomplish this project, and like, I like what you said about him being responsible for Chicago. Like, that's just an interesting way to put it. I just, you know, never really thought about like his responsibility to the, I mean, like, I think I have, but just not in that way. His responsibility to the West Side or to Chicago, and like how he does show, anyway, we'll talk about it later, but just, you know, just how he does show like this, it just does feel like the full breadth of Chicago, not just the one side.
I do think there was like, it was that part of an era of artists that were very thoughtful about how they were, you know, speaking of Chicago and what they were representing. Both because it was being very reductive, and also they were trying to show how expansive, and like there's so much history in Chicago that, you know, it just doesn't get talked to enough. So they were definitely part of an era, I think, especially through the open mics and stuff, that they were like taught or like, you know, put a pedagogy of like, there's a lineage that you should uplift.
Yeah, well, it's always been interesting to me in Chicago. I mean, other cities too, but just like how music and socioeconomics are like so deeply intertwined, you know? I mean, I think maybe this is just the first place I really thought about it.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So, but like you can just really see that in projects like ComfortZone.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway. Well, what was your process of writing it? Because I was like, he's really a beast. Like, it's like, that's not like my forte, you know? Like, I mean, I just feel like also you're like very methodical, and I don't, you know, we're new friends, but I feel like you're very methodical and like organized. That's just how you come off to me. Like more like the method of, so it seemed like you had a process. Like how, I can't do that shit.
I'm good at faking that, I guess. But it was also helpful that, again, I've been thinking about this project for like so long, and I had in my head a little bit of what the structure was. Obviously, after talking to people, like I was learning a lot more that I didn't have knowledge before, and I had to like figure out where to put those pieces. The other thing that we did was interview Saba last, so I kind of have everybody else inform the piece first, and then try to see like how Saba could be like the through lines for everything that we're talking about. I mean, the hardest part for me of the process, especially because, you know, we had to write the intro, but everything else is coming from the words of people that were there in the moment contributing. The hardest part was editing out stuff that I was like, this is really cool, but
it's
in
always
service,
a shame.
I think the piece ended up being like 18,000 words or something like that. It was a lot. It's a lot. Very worth it though. But yeah, so that was kind of like the process, and I was just very passionate about this. So when it was time to do it, you know, I just was drilling down, and it was really exciting.
Yeah. What was the most interesting thing you learned about ComfortZone?
There was a ton. Like, two things that come to mind is that he dropped the hard drive that was containing like all the music like a few months before it was supposed to drop, and basically all the files were like just
I found that interesting too.
So they had to redo everything from the jump, Saba and his team. And then what was kind of cool about that is I think like the years, because he spent like 2 or 3, maybe more years working on this project, but as he was working on it,
how long did he take to recreate it?
Like a few months.
Jeez.
And but I think because he still had like stem files, I believe, and like certain stuff, but I do think that he progressed as an artist so much throughout those 2 or 3 years that he was just like at a faster rate able to recreate what he already spent years trying to, you know, perfect beforehand, which was cool.
Nuts. That's really cool.
And then the other thing that was cool was, again, I love how history connects and communicates with like artists and stuff, I guess like lineage. And one of the people that I talked to, his name is Big Wiz. He used to go by Fat Boy Fresh, and he was a rapper in the late 2000s, early 2010s. He used to go by Fat Boy Fresh, and he was a mainstay on Fake Short Drive, the very popular Chicago music blog. And he was also like a contributor. So I used to read his lists all the time that he would make on Fake Short Drive. I had no idea that he was connected to Saba, and that he was actually one of the reasons why Pivot Gang ended up being published on Fake Short Drive. Like, he was a very big proponent of him and the crew. And just to see again, like, these worlds kind of coming together and connecting. Chicago is such a, what's the phrase, like big city but like small world. Like everybody is like 1 or 2 degrees away from knowing each other. So that was just really cool that like he was somebody that I used to read a lot and hear his music, and then to find out that he was like mentoring Saba and helping them like come through the ranks was pretty cool.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, there's just so many like good details, good like I don't know, Easter eggs and stuff. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff. So both of us love the now defunct podcast, No Skips, with Jinx and Shay, so we borrowed this format from them. So we're going to talk about, sorry. Okay, so themes. We just outlined a few themes that felt present. I mean, I just went through the oral history and kind of just like, coming of age, Chicago on the West Side, family, community, storytelling, memories, hopes, and dreams.
I think that outlines it pretty well.
Yeah, you think I missed anything?
No, I like coming of age speaks to like that part of him going out of the comfort zone and his journey through it all. Chicago and West Side, like to your point, I think he also is really good at speaking, especially at that age, understanding like the socioeconomics, dynamics, and like
the responsibility.
And just like the systematic, like, you know, problems that are occurring throughout.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very, very good, Liz.
Okay, thanks. So you want to take us through the overview of what was happening at that time?
Before we dive into the categories and what we love the most about the project, I first want to ground us in what was happening at the time, both on a national and regional level. So at a national scale, the 2010s saw the rise of the blog era, which was basically a time when physical copies and like traditional music sales were declining really fast, and the music industry didn't know what to do. Primarily because they couldn't make any money off of it, but also because there was this whole ecosystem online that was being created of underground websites and blogs that were curating and basically showcasing the next new music. And also iTunes was where people were buying their music at that time. So it created this really interesting dynamic where being part of the music industry wasn't as much like it didn't give you as much impact as like blogs did, at least from the perception of the youth, you know, back then. And I remember like getting a gold or platinum plaque on Dat Piff meant just as much as being placed on the billboards back then, you know? Or if you got a placement on Dope Boys, Not Right, or Ill Roots, like a lot of people would say like, oh, they would say like, I made it. This is my moment. So it was a really exciting place to be at, where like new stars were breaking out and didn't have to follow the same, I guess, like traditional format that had been happening for like past 20 years or so. I want to ask you, do you remember what were your like favorite music discovery or go-to sites for music?
Man, definitely Dat Piff. There was like a St. Louis one called Made Monarchs.
Okay.
I wrote some down. I forgot them though. I think I mentioned Two Dope Boys for sure. What's that other one? I think I mentioned Gorilla versus Bear or whatever. Oh, Potholes in My Blog.
Potholes in My Blog was really good.
I wrote for that one too. That had
really?
me hyped. Yeah, I wrote for that when I was like after college. And then obviously later Pigeons. You know.
Pigeons and Planes.
Yeah, but Tumblr.
Yeah. Tumblr was such
like
a big
pre Twitter shit, you know. So
Tumblr was a big like place for curation and taste making.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's where the real.
I found a lot of stuff. I found a lot of things on Tumblr, which is, you know.
Well, and then also going into the regional level, like there was those big blogs, but
I think
also
Fake Shore too, though.
Fake Shore Drive and Ruby Cornet like were big drivers in the city and showcasing what the talent was. And so again, prior to like the blog era, it was really hard unless you were in the coast, either east or west, to actually get like some traction and some relevance. But through the blog era and just from talent, like people like the cool kids in the Hall, Mike Terror, and like on the street level, like LEP Bogus Boys and a little bit of Bump J, like they all helped kick down this door of, hey, Chicago's here and we're here to be taken seriously. And Ruby Hornet and Fake Shore Drive were like big proponents of that and were really like innovators. Alongside, like there was also Go Where Hip Hop and Go Ill. There was just like a really cool ecosystem, even regionally, of being able to uplift art in the city. That then evolved to like this new class of really talented young MCs that were coming through. Like I'm thinking, obviously Save Money with Chance, Vic, and all the other guys. 2080s crew, which by the way, rest in peace to Julian Malone, who just passed away. I was also thinking of Dave Koresh, Kembe X, Rocky Fresh. Rocky Fresh was signed to MMG, which was wild. And then Lucky, who was going by Lucky X back then. There was just like so many names that it felt like every other day somebody was blowing up and getting either like a deal or like some sort of like big look, which was really cool. Like John Doe, No Name too, were doing some really, really cool stuff. From the names that I just kind of rattled, do you remember at that time any of those kind of like
Oh yeah, Cool
put on your
Kids.
radar?
Cool Kids for sure. Rocky Fresh. I mean, obviously Vic and Chance.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of anybody. Those felt like the majors. Maybe No Name.
The Cool Kids have arrived at a point.
Oh wait, Little Sister.
Little Sister?
Wasn't that Kids
Kid
These Days?
Sister.
No, but also Little Sister. Kid Sister, Kid Sister, Kid Sister, not Little Sister. But that's whose sibling?
She dated A-Track. She's the sibling of...
Her sibling's also an artist. Oh yeah, DJ, the DJ.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Kid Sister, yeah. I was listening to Kid Sister. And oh yeah, and Kids These Days. Yeah, that's a good one.
They were doing a lot back then. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, you can still feel a lot of their influences, all these people to this day. Around this time also, drill is kind of like blossoming and establishing itself as a fully formed subgenre, and it was generating headlines across really the world for like its nihilistic and violent content, but also for spreading like Chicago slang and just like very innovative sounds. Like, again, that's another thing that's still very prevalent in its influences to this day.
Yeah.
And it started with King Louie and his friend Pac-Man, who invented the subgenre. And then it led to guys like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, G Herbo, and Bibby just like taking over the country. Again, back then it was really hard to measure their success, but like they were still charting in a lot of really cool ways. By 2014, Chicago's music scene had surged into the mainstream. Chief Keef, King Louie, and the drill movement had become a global cultural export. And Chance and Big Mensa had just kind of been established as the next Kanye West. Meanwhile, on the west side of Chicago, there's this group called Pivot Gang who, you know, they were doing their thing in the open mic circuits and very respected through those circles, but still very slept on beyond that, and I think still slept on to this day. That group obviously involves Joseph Chilliams, Fresh Waters, Motherfucking Mello, Squeak, John Wall, then Dinner with John, and of course, Saba. They dropped tapes before Comfort Zone, but it was Comfort Zone really what like, you know, made them kind of like plant their flag and say like, we're here to stay. So with that, Saba's kind of spearheading that movement and being at the forefront, even though I think they all lead the group in different ways and in different forms they contribute to it. That was like the moment I think where like people really started looking at them and like keeping an eye on them. Yeah.
Where were you when you first heard Comfort Zone?
So because I was covering the scenes before that, it was actually a really cool experience being able to see how Saba used to perform a lot back then. And I think that was part of the rollout that like him and his management group back then, John and Jake Cuevas, used to like really stress about doing shows every week basically.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you would see like new songs being performed, and like he would talk about Comfort Zone a lot throughout these performances. So I kind of got the preview of the album through going to these shows, and I was very excited. I also had the chance to go to South by Southwest that year, and Saba had a show not in the Austin, actually downtown area. It was like really far out in the suburbs, and there was no way for me to come back into the city. And they were really nice, John and Jacob, to give me a ride back so when I was in the van, I heard a little bit more from the project and like what they were thinking and stuff. And then the day of, or I think the day after that the project dropped, they did this really cool listening party at the Box. I don't even know if it's still around, but there's like
On 6th Street?
Yeah, yeah. And I got to hear that live and see how people were reacting. It was really cool. And again, after that, it just became like my soundtrack to the summer. I was everywhere I was biking or everywhere I was walking, so I had the album in my headphones.
Yeah, I saw Saba at South by in 2015. He opened for Martin Sky.
Oh wow.
Remember Martin Sky?
Yeah.
Remember Martin Sky?
He's still around, but
I know, but he's like more of a producer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're good.
We purposely put their shows together. They had a single together.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we purposely,
which was
I
a
think
really
that's how I
good
got
single.
hip to Martin Sky because of Saba.
so we purposely made sure for that Saba and the performance, he was bringing on.
Oh, that's fire.
So we doubled up on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which year did you go to South by?
2014.
Okay. I think I went that year too. But I think I saw Saba perform 2015
Yeah.
for the first time.
Open for him, I think it was just
Or whatever, they were like together.
yeah, maybe at that point, that's how
It might have been Martin's show and Saba popped out. I think that's what it was.
we did the whole Saba, so we had like 10 performances.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Y'all did that.
Yeah, we were doing that back then for sure.
Yeah, for real. I do like to joke that that comfort zone is the reason I moved to Chicago.
Oh really?
I mean, it's not inaccurate.
Yeah.
It's not completely accurate, but it's not inaccurate.
Isn't it cool though that like, I agree. I feel like it had so much passion for the city and so much love.
I just was like, hadn't really, I mean, I was in New York, but I felt a little bored, which is maybe crazy to say, but I don't know. I just felt like something was happening in Chicago and I was curious, you
Yeah.
know? And I didn't really need to be anywhere. So I was just like, you know.
And you moved 2015?
Yeah. Cool. So I did a little soft move, and then I signed a lease in December 2015.
Very cool.
But no, it was really, you know. And then I drove to New York with Saba and Cuevas and everybody, you know.
Yeah.
The times.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That was really cool, actually. I remember
Well,
reading that profile.
Yeah, God, I should rewrite that. That's probably embarrassing. But I got a spot in the van because No Name dropped out. And
They were doing a show in New York.
yeah, at SOBs, which, you know, like, you know, it's like Reggie's, right? Or it's like the first place you're supposed to perform at, and when you have like your first serious New York show. And he performed photosynthesis, like an early version of it, and it was so good. Like, I just remember that. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really heard Everybody was also really fire. Like,
Yeah, that's another
group. Their live performances goes crazy. Like, they're just, you know, all three of their vibes are very different, but
Super legendary.
but like, no, it was cool.
Yeah.
John drove the whole way.
I'm a big New York hater, so I'm glad that you made the move to Chicago.
I love New York, so none of that slander around me, sir. Actually, no, you can say what the fuck you want.
Yeah, you're in
I love a little
Chicago
debate. Well, let's get to the first category.
Okay.
What was your best line?
I put in Marble, which again, we'll talk more about this. This is an amazing song. But he has this line that goes,
Shorty taught me a cool handshake, and I thought we made it up. Got to high school and realized we was just shaking up. I see my reflection when I look into the heavens. Marbles in my pocket while the sun is setting.
And I think it speaks so much to what makes Saba a compelling writer. He's letting you into like a very personal moment that I think can be a general experience to a lot of people that grew up in either the west side or the south side or just neighborhoods in Chicago. And it's both like, there's a little bit of innocence in it, but in a world with like real heavy consequences and real world issues, you know? And just the way that he's able to evoke that in these two lines. And it also speaks to the relationship that he has with his stepdad.
Yeah.
It's just very, very cool and very, as a writer, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting for him to have those moments of innocence because I feel like he just had to grow up fast, you know, and it's nice to have those like glimpses of he's still a kid,
Yeah.
you know, with all the things like kids in Chicago or growing up in Chicago, you have to like deal with certain shit, you know,
And I
at
think
a young age.
Yeah, and I think that often shyness gets confused with like being aloof or like
Reserved.
not even because you can be reserved, but like Saba has seen shit or like he's lived,
oh,
you
okay,
know?
yeah.
Like he's not just because he's shy doesn't mean that he hasn't actually had to deal
Like
with the real
naive.
world. Yeah,
Okay.
naive.
You
Yeah.
think people equate naivete and shyness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they don't because they're not speaking up or they're not acting. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
What was your best line?
I think mine is from Welcome Home.
Hey, mega steps on. My heart can't be Teflon. Feel everything as song.
Cause I'm like, I feel you, dog.
Yeah.
You know, like,
What a deep song too.
yeah. That song is like, yeah. I had other ones though, runner-ups. Burnout, Wake Up Every Day Feeling Good, because it transitions to Butter and it's almost like one song. And I didn't really think about it until I was listening to it on streaming. Because, you know, the songs there's like a gap between the songs.
Yeah.
But on SoundCloud, it just plays through.
Yeah.
You know? So it was just like one long 6-minute song, you know?
And like that,
And like the chorus is the same. I like that. Yeah.
and it speaks to his songwriting and production ability to just be thinking about those like little moments, you
Yeah.
know? I think I heard that like it was something that kind of came about from just performing it so much.
Oh,
and it kind of like
blends.
yeah, like Damage.
That's fire. I
was
love that.
working on it, but
Yeah.
so cool.
I know I said we weren't going to talk too much about the runner-ups, but
Yeah.
also I feel like what you were talking about the innocence, like that part feels like the silver lining, or like he like pairs all these like sadder moments with like this happier, like wake up every day feeling good, like Butter, like calling himself Butter. You know, it's like it just feels like, oh, we could see him happy, or oh, he has his moment, you know?
Yeah, I think he's really good at like just showing you like
The full picture. Yeah.
full person, you know, that I think everybody has, but we're often just put in a box.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job at breaking out of that box consistently.
Yeah. Okay. Second runner-up is from West Side Bound, from Benjamin Earl Turner. So this don't really count because it's not Saba. But he said, "People keep dying. We keep buying the liquor just to pour it out. The earth is a drunk just spinning around." What? That's fucking nuts. The earth is a drunk just because you're pouring the liquor and the earth is absorbing the alcohol. That is crazy, actually.
Yeah.
That's actually nuts. Like, no, he went off on that verse though.
I love
Yeah.
their partnership, and I love that Benjamin is from California and Saba's, and they still found each other and they work so well together.
Yeah. No, that verse is nuts.
Yeah.
Everybody really went off because we're about to talk about best guest verse.
Yeah.
So-
which was hard. I mean, all
Mine
categories
was
were hard.
easy. Mine was easy. Go ahead though.
I have to go with Erin Allen Kane and her hook on Burnout.
That's
I think
fair.
that's so good.
Hey universe, don't come at me with your bullshit. Your nonsense, your issues, can't handle it. These problems keep me up at night. But in the end, they're just problems and everybody got some.
I like the story from the oral history.
Of her, just, you know.
She was like, I don't have Wi-Fi. I had to go record, like I had to go steal Wi-Fi. I don't know, whatever. But
She was truly in oral history. She talks about how she's truly living in burnout, like, you know, trying to manage school, trying to manage like a
Very
low-paying
meta.
job,
Yeah.
rent, having to work out of a coffee shop and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, like you can really feel it, but it's also like that could really be a top 100 like Billboard record, and I
Yeah.
believe it because it's such a great song.
I mean,
and
you
great
truly
rapping.
do feel good when you
Yeah.
listen to it, you know?
Yeah, even though it's dealing with like, you know, it's like, damn, he got locked out of this girl's house.
Oh yeah, that shit crazy.
Like he's still talking about real
He's like, I'm not
stuff.
even from the West Side.
Yeah.
South Side. I'm never coming back here.
And then my runner-up is Tree for y'all.
And even if we don't get rich about this bitch, we don't get ticks on Priceline quick enough to where they jump way up. And you can't afford the shit, and we still gonna do it, my nigga. We still gonna screw on them bitches a couple.
It's so cool to have like an older perspective, and Saba speaks about this too. Like they have similar backgrounds and stuff, and he's able to talk about it from like, I think like a more mature.
Is he from the West Side?
standpoint. No, he's from the North Side actually,
Okay.
Cabrini Green.
Okay.
But you know, he had like the similar group of friends, and that whole song is about, you know, being there for your friends and your community.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks really cool in a way. And I think like now Saba can't be that far off from the age when Tree wrote that, which is kind of crazy to think
interesting.
about. Yeah.
Mine was Fresh Waters on Scum.
Feeling regal in my old school regal. Listening to Siegel with a couple of my amigos. They were speaking about the evils of the windy coast. That's too many for me to mention. So here a dose. No dab or do ya. Too much sab or school. You're not even gassing them up. Each track hit harder than a Mac or a truck. You don't hear me though, my music too up. Aquatic with the flow. Can't see, can't touch. It's upholstery too much for a degenerate. Too much mixing with the lifestyle of the barge. Purple rain, your broad. Hate the game cause the play ain't do it. School's closing, got the May into it. Keep hearing light skin ain't in. Every time I hit the scene, they say dark be the trend. Oblivious to the fact black has skin. You see people, I be seeing my twin. Too many losses got me focused on wins. Church.
Like, period, mic drop, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, first of all, Fresh Waters is the man. And second of all, it's like the audio quality. Obviously, he was like incarcerated then, so like the audio quality just lends that. It's like he's like removed, like far away, but you know, like he's one of the people who started Pivot Gang, you know, so he's not that far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like obviously he snapped on the verse, and it's Fresh Waters. So that's it.
He has a coolness to him.
He's just like the coolest. He's like the coolest cat. I don't even use that word, but he just like describes him, right? Yeah. He just like, and you know, he says church. Yeah. I don't know, and it's like he's world building in that moment because now, you know, I mean, that's his whole like phrase or whatever, you know. So
and like that was another one, like hearing the story of him, like he was actually incarcerated at that point. Yeah. And he had to like, it's not a filter or whatever. It's like, it's actually him on the phone trying to rap on one take before like it gets caught up or whatever. And then
I love when he was like the security guard came and played it for me. Yeah. Like that's just what a story. And my second is Benjamin Earl Turner, but you know, he just snapped.
Yeah.
Animal beats, and so I Dr. Doolittle them. My pseudonym is Jim. I stay working it out, killing the fear and the doubt. People keep dying, we buying the liquor just to pour it out. The earth is a drunk, just spinning around. I'm about to make skeletons.
He really went crazy, and his verse is very long. He went crazy for a while.
Yeah, you know, so. Yeah. There's a lot of like rap going on in this project, which is really cool.
Okay, so next category, best slow burn.
And to give some context, slow burn in terms of like songs that we at first didn't love or get, and then they kind of grew on us one way or the other. Yeah. So what was your?
Oh, Marbles.
Marbles?
You can't get paid in the earth this big, you worthless kid. Time to take action, affirmative. No more games like refurbishing, I'm only 9, but I'm turning 10. Bump some alternative like I ain't never heard of this. Shorty let me burn the disc, keeping his head above water like he learned to swim. Of course that's when they try to murder him.
But only, I feel like it's like I would recently say that's a slow burn because after, and this was the interesting thing I think I learned in the oral history is that it's about his stepdad. And yeah, it's just personal, but I never really noticed how personal. I think that was really interesting to me to learn that, and then to like kind of look at it again with renewed eyes. You know,
I love that song. That song is so good. For me, it was Time Zone.
First things first, realest niggas moving silence. I've been quiet, I'm a cotton picking Brian. And my mommy had a bias to a pint and apologies. Y'all ain't near did me like William and Hillary, my really read.
That's the first song. That's crazy.
And that's kind of the reason. It's not that it's, you know, a bad song, but like it's actually an amazing song. The problem was that in my head, I had like this idea of what the intro record was gonna be like.
What was your idea?
More like Burnout, more like, hey, like this is my, you know, kind of like the establishing shot of like, or like what the thesis statement was going to be of the project. I think Burnout does that a little bit better. Throughout the years, I kept listening to Time Zone. I was like, no, this also speaks kind of like, you know, who he is at that juncture in his point in his life and like where he's heading and what he's trying to do. And then as I was talking to people in the oral history, they all kept talking about the production on that record. I'm more of a lyrics type of person and you know the songwriting aspect of it. but as people were pointing out the different like production stuff that he was doing there and how it was different, especially with the hi-hats, I believe, and some other stuff, it was like, wow, this song actually smacks. Like this is such a good song. I also find it really funny that it was like he had a song titled Adderall on Get Comfortable, and this song, a big part of it's about like, he's on Adderall for too long or whatever, which is really funny.
I don't know, I just always have like those, like the opening chords stuck in my head. I don't know, I really like the opening.
Yeah, no, I
really
love
like
it.
that song, yeah.
I think it was, I was doing this as sometimes fans unfairly do to artists, and they have like this expectation of what they want the album, or like, in my case, the intro to sound like, rather than taking it in as what the artist thought about. Yeah.
You're that kind of fan? Damn.
I used to be.
I'm just kidding. Okay, best song in the whip. Important, very important.
I will say, caveat, that I'm not in cars as much as people.
Okay.
I do public transportation a lot, bikes. But I have been I have listened to ComfortZone in a car, and 401k.
Marathon, that's 4K. Some niggas sold they self for just 4K. I trade a 401k for an 8K. And bet I'm not hungry the next day. GPA don't.
That beat
it's so
knocks.
hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Like back then, same with Born Ready Productions, right? He now goes by Flex Lennon. Like he really elevated that. Like it just hits so hard.
Yeah.
And Saba's also, I don't think we had heard him like that energized, or like there's a little bit of anger behind that's really gravitating and really cool.
Yeah. Mine was Comfort Food.
Comfort Food.
Yeah.
But I might show up to the function in a tinted Hummer with a Zoe Saldana, just let Benny Hannes. Might cut her off right after summer, I don't really wanna keep it 100, she just a prima donna that's on a scholarship. Say she do this as often as the apocalypse. I told her say that shit to a floppy disk. Girl, say that shit to a floppy disk.
I just really I feel like legit went off, but I also just really at the end he's like, girl, say that shit to a floppy disk, which I'm about to tell people when they are talking straight up bullshit to me. I'm about to be like, say that shit to a floppy disk. I'm probably going to be talking to millennials, so they'll know what I'm talking about too. You feel me?
I'm really sad that the first half of that song is not on like DSPs.
It's not?
No, they took it out, I think, for the sample clearance.
Oh shit.
But
I think
you
I
can
listened
still listen
to on my
the,
download. I have it downloaded.
Oh, then you can still, it's on SoundCloud, Audio Mac, you know.
I think that's I still have the original download in my iTunes, so it's in my Apple Music. So it's in my library, so that's what I listen to.
Yeah. No,
so for me, it didn't really make a difference. It was on DSPs and which is cool, but I already had it. I didn't have to go on SoundCloud.
I think it's a great excuse to celebrate it.
Absolutely.
I feel like this new generation has, not to sound old man, but gotten too lazy. You remember when you had to go to Hulkshare or whatever and download MP3s and you didn't know if you were gonna get a virus or a real song, or LimeWire? They don't know about that anymore.
I was more on the LimeWire, BitTorrent.
They don't know about that life anymore. They just get it served.
I'm aging myself. Okay, underrated song.
For me, what I feel is the most underrated song is Marbles.
Yeah.
I feel like
her arm, they call him shorty, I'm a shorty, damn near his height. You get out of the car, you hitchhike, you ain't riding with us. You can die, my nigga, I don't care if I'm 5, my nigga. But everybody like you accept me, and you trying to accept me. Shit be easy.
People don't talk enough about the storytelling, the fact that it really tells a thorough story of how he meets his stepdad, how they start bonding, and through that, he also does a really good job of talking about the West Side and what life is like there.
Yeah.
The hardships and also where they go out to eat. I think he shouts out El Gran or whatever. So through and through, a really great record that I don't think Saba fans talk about enough.
Yeah.
And it shows the penmanship, but also Joseph Chilliams is such a great producer, and that beat is so cool. I also love how, it does this imagery thing with marbles and connecting them to the universe. I think about that last scene in Men in Black where it starts zooming out, and then you see that the world and the universe are just these marbles that are being played by aliens. the beat to me sounds like
Oh,
that.
that's crazy
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah. For you?
Yeah, mine is West Side Bound.
And at night, you could be living and never get right. If you looking down how you put up a fight, pick your head up, never let up, never said once it was gonna be easy. West side, raise me, I should get that shit.
And I feel like it's the most slept on of the West Side Bounds because there are 3. And everyone loves the third one, but I feel like the first one is excellent.
I definitely sleep on it.
Yeah, because I was listening to it again. I feel like that was a contender for the whip. 401k was also a contender for the whip. But yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, best non-music thing associated with this album.
Yes. I have my option, and I have some runner-ups just because it's such a fun category. My top one is that.
Alright, just drown out the ant farm. Used to rock Fat Farm. Used to watch Cat Dog. Now you a rap star. Cause the vocab stuff, head in a lap with the
It was around, he was making this record around the time that he was going to Colombia and also dropping out from Colombia.
Excellent reference.
So there's a lot of references to that.
Yeah.
And he's just talking about, that school is not his thing. He's trying to do these other things. So that was really cool.
I mean, I just think it's it's a running joke here that I just feel like every artist I've talked to in Chicago who's gone to Columbia has dropped out.
Yeah.
I feel like I know less graduates than I do people who graduated.
I know 2 graduates.
Yeah.
And I know
I feel like I know at
dozen.
least 1. 2. Oh, 2. Oh, you dropped out?
Oh, 3.
You
then
graduated?
I know 3.
Oh,
John
go
also.
off, John.
But yeah, most of the people that I know dropped out of Columbia. Yeah. And then my runner-ups is this, him and Joseph Chilliams apparently are really great basketball players.
Oh.
And he has a ton of basketball references. Well, not a ton, but there's enough there that it's
You
kind of
notice
cool.
it.
Yeah. And then all the cartoon references, that's another thing. Again, kind of that line right of innocence
Yes,
and
exactly.
real world. He shouts out Adventure Time, Cat Dog, and Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool to see that. And again, stuff that I was watching as a kid too.
Yeah. I only had 1.
Okay.
Hell out west, where the buses stop running early. I used to.
The cars, transportation, movement. He's on the train, he's on the bus, and I feel like it gives the album movement in a different way, and it makes me picture him moving throughout the city. And he does that on a lot of songs. Burnout. I'm Hello Out West though, where the buses stop running early, crashing cars like Burnout, Welcome Home, I Just Pray That You Get Home Safely, Ironically, The Green Line Trained Me, For Y'all, Run Till the Sun Up, Run Into Cover. I'm gonna keep going though.
Yeah.
Whip, Are You Down, 17 hitting 70 on the E-Way, Comfort Food, My Life Laid on Wax, From Wacker to Back Out West. Even on Bucket List, he has a song Stony where he talks about, I'm in a bucket,
Yeah.
feel like fuck it, or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, the transportation in general, but specifically how important cars, are almost like a signifier for independence for him.
Autonomy, yeah.
Whip is basically that's what the whole song's about, finally being able to sneak out and drive around. And then to me, that kind of connects to Sony, where he's hey, it's just me and my friends in a car riding to our next adventure, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's just a narrative piece. I don't know, it's interesting. Man, best song.
That song.
You would put 2 options.
I know, I cheated.
You don't have to pick one, boss.
So my 2 options were Burnout or Marbles.
Yeah.
But I have to go with Burnout.
Okay.
Hell out west, where the buses stop running early. I used to run home, I was scared to walk. People bled at dog. It's funny we play with chalk and then lay in chalk. Foreshadow the shadows, it's more cattle for titles. It's beef for snakes with the rattles.
I think it really showed to me, again, it's a great hip hop record with a lot of pop sensibility. And it just showed me that he could be as big of an artist as he wanted to. And the way that he talks about, his life and taking us through all these little glimpses. Again, that would have been my ideal intro record because he's in Englewood locked out, like he's trying to go back home, he's on the west side. He's like referencing Mace Windu, and just like he's a little bit nerdy with like the Star Wars references. So it really shows him as this complete person. And Erin Allen Kane, she is such a talented singer. It just blew me away.
Yeah.
And he would perform that song as like the closer in a lot of the shows, and it was so cool.
Yeah. Mine is Whip Are You Down?
17, living out a dream while these niggas wanna sleep. 17, I'ma steal the keys while my mama going sleep. 17 with a new love for the street.
Because I remember getting my license and taking my mom's car, and she's like, "You're not allowed to drive anybody." What do you think the first thing I did was? I went to go pick my friend up.
Yeah.
And my mom had a Lexus, 92 Lexus Burgundy. I don't know, I have it tatted. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like that shit was, so I get it. 17 going 70 on the E-way, I feel you. We would just get into the most mischievous things. I would drive my car out of the city, without telling my mom. I would just do whatever the fuck. It's like I remember when I moved here, I didn't have a car, and I got a car in 2020, and even like being in like 30, like I felt autonomy again, you know, and it's just like, but having that autonomy when you're a teenager, next level. You know, like I remember that feeling, you know, so.
That's very cool.
But plus like the chorus, you know, and then like I think it was Ken Ross who produced it, and he was like, "Oh, that's like my favorite song." Like, you know, he's talking about the chorus being like, I don't know, he said like pure pop, pure candy pop or some shit. And I was just like, yeah. There's a lot of emotions in that skirt, you know?
It also, they did a really good job at making you feel like it's late night. And like, you know, even how he's talking and stuff, like, you really feel like you're sneaking out with him. Yeah, it definitely is really, because I heard it like 10 years ago, so I was in my 20s, and that was still fresh enough, you know, but yeah, it's a good feeling. Okay, most Chicago thing about the album. Yeah, it's a transplant, you know. I don't know how much my opinion weighs, but I had obviously the people dropping out of Columbia.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. Honestly, that one might win, you know?
Yeah, it just like, you see it happen so often. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But then also, I really love the line in United Center when he says,
"My backyard was the madhouse on Madison, reincarnated in the Mason. Time don't wait, now they face."
That's also excellent.
Yeah. Obviously a reference.
That whole song is literally the most fucking Chicago song.
Yeah. But it's such a cool like reference of like the old United Center. Before they tore it down, and then when I had the chance to go to his grandma's basement for like an interview, actually back in 2014, around the time he dropped the tape, I went to his grandma's basement when they were recording a lot of the music, and we took some photos in his backyard, and they had a hoop. So I feel like a lot of them were just playing basketball in his backyard back then, which makes the connection really cool. Like, you know, that's where they were like envisioning their dreams of like what they wanted to do growing up and stuff like that, which was
sick. I like that.
There's like a double entendre, maybe triple in this line, which is really cool.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your most Chicago thing?
I mean, I think it's a comfort food line.
Damn, my life literally on wax, from whacker to back.
I mean, we all know Whacker's a bitch. Lower Whacker, worst place on earth. You don't get a signal.
No signal.
You get lost. You're a true boss if you know how to get out.
Yeah.
You know? There's levels to this shit.
They do underground like streetcar races there that just like scares me, you know?
It's so dark down there. Like I would never step foot outside a moving vehicle. One time I had to climb the stairs. I wasn't alone, thank God, but that shit was scary.
That, again, he's so good at imagery.
Yeah.
And that line is superb.
I mean, you could just, again, also speak to like the movement, and just like I can envision, especially now that I live here and know, you know, like Like I can only imagine being from here, being from the West Side, having somebody from the West Side say that shit, and you're like, damn, bro. And then, but like that shit's that's outside Chicago now, though. You know, like he obviously has fans outside, and like people know something that just feels so Chicago to me. This other one is crazy. City cold, think you need a coat, but you really need a vest. I'm westbound down. That one had me fucked up.
Yeah.
That one had me fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold you.
It's
deep.
It's deep.
The other one wasn't as deep, but this one's deep.
I mean, they're both deep.
Yeah, it's all deep.
Because I'm almost, not to go back on the comfort food one, but I'm almost imagining, like, you know, on Wax when you have the vinyl and like
that too. Right.
like,
Yeah.
That's how Wagger feels too. Like you're on going to the west side too.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well.
Should we talk about the legacy of the project? I mean, we're kind of speaking to it on, like, the West Side had produced rap stars before, including Lupe Fiasco, Twista, Do or Die, and Crucial Conflict. But few had invited listeners into this part of the city with as vivid detail as Saba, and none had really repped it as hard as Pibba Gang does.
Yeah.
Which was really cool, and I think it has allowed other artists from the West Side and other parts of the city, but specifically from the West Side, to take a lot of pride in their neighborhoods and like their area code, I guess. Another big thing from that project is that you get a lot of like artists that are doing incredible things today in their early moments back then. And so you see a young Aaron Allen Kane, a young Jamila Woods, Nasan, Kamobi, Benjamin Earl Turner. They're all like, when I talk to them during the oral history, they were speaking how like they really felt like they were actually becoming artists while working on this project, like, or doing the music videos with Jake Caves and Heart of the City. Like I remember Jamila was like, oh, I really feel like, you know, I'm becoming an artist because like I'm in this music video and then they're asking me to do these shots and stuff like that. Yeah. And just really cool to see the progression of not just Saba, because obviously we know now that he's at a much higher level. But everybody else that kind of started with him has taken great strides in their artistry, which is awesome. The album wasn't an instant breakout, but I do think that it kind of show the blueprint for like what can be done for a sustainable career, and when like you put the art first rather than trying to blow up immediately or go viral. Like he now has such a strong catalog, and I think his fans are fans for life because of that, rather than, you know, just like fleeting followers that will then call you overrated when you drop something that's not to their liking. And then finally, I really think you can't speak about Comfort Zone in this era without speaking on John Wall and Squeak, who tragically were murdered and passed away a few years later, but they played such a crucial, everybody in Pibbigan and everybody around Saba at this time played a crucial job in him being able to make this record.
They were both mentioned in the same verse on West Side Bound Down.
Yeah.
Oh, that had me fucked up.
And then
when I was reading it yesterday.
And then there's that, and then Squeak gets a shout out at the end of the day in the United Center, I believe. And John was just with him everywhere they would go to. Jake Cave showed me like some footage of Saba recording some songs, and John's just back there, you know?
Yeah.
I remember him always being like the most encouraging person to, I was gonna say Pibbigan, but everybody that he kind of like met, like he was just really that type of person.
Yeah.
And I don't think Saba is able to ever make a Comfort Zone again. One, because he's just like a bigger artist, an adult that has to take care of people around him, but also like there's these people that played this really big role in his life that are sadly not around physically,
truly, rest
still
in
around
peace.
spiritually.
Yeah.
I will say that, again, you can feel their impact, and I think that has carried through his career. And it's also very cool to see that the last song, Keep collaborated with his dad to record it.
Yeah.
And family keeps being such a like mainstay in his career. I think the really cool part of the legacy of this project is that he has remained with integrity in everything that he does, and he hasn't really shown away from like who he was as that person. He just continued to evolve, and people can look at that, at least to me, as like a North Star of how you can make art without sacrificing who you are. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's real. Cool. Thank y'all for tuning in to the first episode of A Comfort Zone Retrospective with Kismet Radio and These Days. On the next episode, we'll dig into the first two songs from Saba's project, Time Zone and Burnout. Till then.